this particular video, let's try to discuss the overview of CNN. Before going to this particular video, if you haven't watched any of my CNN videos, then please check them out and then come to this particular video. Then only you'll understand this better. Given an input image, we guys already know how to apply convolution operation and ReLU operation and finally get out the feature maps. I hope it is clear for everyone by now. And similarly, this will be taken as input for the pooling layer. And in the pooling layer, what we'll be having? We'll be having some specific window size. So based on that window size, we can apply something like max pooling. And according to max pooling, it will try to take each window of size WS. And in that window, whichever is maximum, that will be placed in the output. So this is about max pooling. And after applying this max pooling, we'll be having feature maps with reduced size, but the same information as these feature maps that we are having. Okay, this is about max pooling. And then similarly, again, we can take these feature maps and we can apply convolution operation again. So here if you observe, these are called as kernels, or we can even call them as filters. These kernels or filters are responsible for extracting out the features. All these things we have already discussed, so just I'm discussing quickly. So basically, in general, let's say here we are extracting out simpler features. On the second convolutional layer, it happens that we are extracting more complex features. Okay, maybe in the code videos you'll get deeper understanding how it is extracting out the complex features. But for now, understand that, let's say here with this particular kernel, we are extracting out half I. And with this kernel, we are extracting out another half I. Like that, it can happen that in the first convolutional layer, we might extract out very small features. It can be even smaller, but for your understanding, I'm just showing this half I, but it can be even smaller. In the first layer, we'll be abstracting out very small features. And in the second layer, it will try to combine those features. Like let's say here, the complex feature can be full I. With this particular kernel, it will try to extract out the full I. Like that, in the second convolutional layer, it will try to extract out bigger and complex features. And finally, at the last, like after applying convolution pooling for multiple times, the size will be very smaller and it will be having all the important features information. On that, we'll be applying the flatten. And finally, we'll be using the same ANN architecture in order to get the respective output. This is what I have explained in the last few videos of CNN. But in general, what happens is, basically, as I said, if you remember, in the last video, I discussed what are parameters and hyperparameters in case of CNN. Parameters are the variables which are adjusted by model, and in case of convolution and ReLU and pooling layers, the parameters are the kernel matrix values. So in this kernel matrix, so all these will be filled with some values, and those values will be my parameters. Okay. Initially, all these values will be some random values. If you guys remember the linear regression video that I have discussed, there initially we are initializing some random line. The data can be anything, but we are just drawing some random line. Let me draw it over here. So let's say this is X and this is Y. The data points can be anything like this. But for such data points, what the model is trying to do, the model is trying to initially draw some random line, and after checking the loss and going through optimizer, it is slowly getting adjusted like this, and finally go to the optimal line. So let's say this is the optimal line. Slowly the initial random line will get adjusted to the optimal line, right? Similarly here, initially all these will be random values, but these values will get adjusted in such a way that these combinedly extract out some specific feature. Like here, as we discussed, half I. It need not be necessarily half I. It can be very small features like just some straight line or some small eyeball like this. Like it can be very small features. Okay, just for your understanding purpose, I am telling finally these values might adjust to something like half I, but it need not be necessarily half I. It can be anything, but it will make sure that it is extracting out something from the input image, and after extracting out some information, like it will try to extract out more complex features using the second convolutional layers. So like that, on going through multiple convolutional layers, it will try to extract out complex and complex features. Like finally, it might extract out something like eye or something like nose, or it can be combination of eye and nose also at the last layers of convolutional layer. Okay, like that, all these values will be adjusted so that it can extract some important information out of it. Okay, so this is what happens in convolutional layer, and that happens with the help of backpropagation. So once we get the predicted output, when the predicted output is bad, that will be known to the model through the loss function y comma y cap, and these loss functions will vary according to the problem that we are trying to solve. If you are trying to solve regression problem, then you will use one specific loss function, and if you are trying to solve binary classification problem, then you'll try to use another loss function. And similarly, if you're trying to solve multi-class classification, there will be another loss function. So these all things we have discussed in the last few videos. So check them out. And once all that is done, then we'll try to backpropagate. Once the loss is very bad, then we'll go on the optimizer, and on optimizer, we'll try to backpropagate. First, we'll be adjusting these last layered weights, and after adjusting all these last layered weights, then it will go back and we'll try to adjust all these weights. And once all these weights get adjusted, we'll go back and we'll adjust all these weights. And similarly, again we'll go back and we'll adjust all these weights. And after that, in the last convolution layer, from here the last convolution layer will be over here, and these values will get adjusted, and these will get adjusted so that it can extract out some complex features like complete eye. I'm just saying this as example, but not exactly complete eye. It can be anything. It will slowly at last, it might adjust it to some complete eye. Okay, so after updating these weights for multiple number of times, or after doing this back propagation for multiple number of times, so this point I want you guys to understand. Initially, it will be completely random. The whole convolution that is done is completely random. In backpropagation, it will get adjusted in such a way that it can extract out these complex features. I want you to understand this point. That's why I'm doing this particular video. And slowly, it will, after like adjusting all these weights in convolutional layer, it will go back to the previous convolutional layer, that is this one, and here it will adjust all the weights again, and here it will adjust such a way that it will extract out smaller features, okay, or less complex features, whereas in the second and third convolutional layer it will try to extract out little bit more complex features. Okay, so I hope the point that I'm trying to tell in this particular video is clear for each and every one of you. As per my explanation, you might think that initially we might fix these values to be some specific features, and then we'll be getting the output properly. But it is not happening in case of CNN. Just for understanding purpose, I just told that these contain some feature information, but these will be initially some random values, and these will get adjusted in such a way that it extracts some feature by CNN model. Okay, this is the main point that I'm trying to tell in this particular video. I hope that is clear. If that is not clear, please let me know in the comment section. I'll try to explain you in some other way. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.